cool. So that was unemployment. Still working on unemployment, but it's all linked to the idea of poverty in South Africa, which is a very complicated discussion. So this is just a slide that I inserted myself just to recap. What is frictional unemployment? Well, people are constantly entering and leaving full employment as a normal consequence of economic activity. In other words, you have newly qualified people and jobs that are created and destroyed. Those are your frictional unemployed. Structural unemployment, well, there's a gray area between where, sorry, I said full employment. It's supposed to be frictional unemployment. This FU means frictional. There is a gray area between frictional unemployment and structural unemployment. Structural is a result of technological change. It's usually harder for structurally unemployed people to get back into employment. And then cyclical, that's a result of a fall in demand and is associated with a recession. For some reason, the slides don't discuss full employment. So what is full employment? Full employment is not a situation of no unemployment. Okay? Full employment does not equal no unemployment. Firstly, there will always be some unemployment in the economy. So what then is full employment? Well, full employment is when there is no cyclical unemployment. There's no cyclical unemployment. We still have frictional unemployment and we still have cyclical unemployment. So full employment means when we only have frictional and structural, correct, and cyclical equals 0. Now, full employment is associated with the natural rate of unemployment. So when we talk about the natural rate of unemployment, and the key here is unemployment, natural rate of unemployment is equal to full employment. Oops. Okay, so full employment. Full employment is when we're at the natural rate of unemployment. So the natural rate of unemployment is when we only have structural and frictional. That's the natural rate of unemployment. So, full employment, why do we have unemployment? Well, that's the consequence of the fact that there will always be structural and frictional unemployment in an efficient marketplace. So how does full employment change as GDP changes? Well, the quantity of output produced at the full employment level is what we call potential GDP. Potential real GDP is what we produce when we're at full employment. So again, if we're plotting GDP against time, and our GDP is going all over like this, and we draw the average through here, which is the trend. The trend is called potential versus actual, which fluctuates all over the place. Okay? So potential GDP, the trend, is what we have when we have full employment. So on the trend, we have only structural and frictional unemployment. Whereas when we have actual GDP, which bounces all over the place, we have both frictional, structural, and cyclical. So actual real GDP may be above or below potential GDP. Right? We could be above potential, we could be below potential. We could also equal potential. Okay? So actual real GDP may be above or below potential GDP, and hence unemployment may be above or below the natural rate of unemployment. The natural rate of unemployment is when we are producing at the potential level of GDP. Of course, it's pretty difficult to know whether we are actually at the natural rate of unemployment, whether we are actually producing at potential GDP. It's easy to look back in the past and say, oh yes, we were above our potential, or oh no, we were below. But at any one point in time, it's pretty difficult to know, are we at potential or not? And I'll give you an example. The South African economy at the moment, we're entering a recession. Are we entering a recession and we are above potential real GDP? Or are we entering a recession and in fact we're already below potential GDP and now we're just moving further below? How would we know? Well, one way to know is to say, well, is our unemployment increasing or decreasing? And what is our unemployment rate at the moment compared to our historical norm? So if we're normally at 5% unemployment and we're currently at 1% unemployment and we're entering a recession, that would suggest we are above full employment, right? We are above the trend. We've reached a peak and now we're moving back towards the trend. If we normally have 5% unemployment and our unemployment rate is 10% and we are entering a recession, that suggests that we are below potential and going down. That's not good. It's not a good place to be. Our historical unemployment rate sits at around 24-ish%. We are currently entering a recession and unemployment is more like 27%. Okay? That's not a good combination. The other thing is our prices are not increasing. We don't have inflation. Okay? Which is another good way of suggesting we are below potential. And later on in the course we'll talk about what can we do as an economy? What can government do? Is there any kind of intervention that we can look at in order to get us back to potential, in order to get us out of a recession? The answer is yes, potentially. So what then is the natural unemployment rate, or what do we mean by natural unemployment? Natural unemployment arises from frictions and structural change when there is no cyclical unemployment. All the unemployment is frictional and structural. The natural rate of unemployment is influenced by many factors, but the most important are the following: the age distribution of your population, the scale of any structural changes, the real wage rate, as well as any other kind of benefits for being unemployed. Just to talk through one of these examples, an economy with a young population has a large number of new job seekers and a high level of frictional unemployment. An economy with an aging population has fewer new job seekers and therefore a lower level of frictional unemployment. So you can see how the natural unemployment rate may vary. Okay, and then your chapter gives a discussion on each one of those. I'm not really going to go through it. I don't have much value to add there as far as I'm concerned. How does real GDP and unemployment change over the cycle? Again, same diagram that we've looked at a number of times. Because GDP tends to increase and then decrease, increase, decrease, increase, decrease. What tends to happen to unemployment over the course of the business cycle is unemployment falls as GDP increases, then unemployment rises as GDP falls. Unemployment falls as GDP rises, and unemployment rises as GDP falls. Why would unemployment rise as GDP falls? My question to you. Why should there be an inverse relationship? Any suggestions? Yeah. Correct. So if you're producing less, why should your unemployment increase? Yeah? Correct, okay? When we are producing, we are employing laborers as part of the production process. So what tends to happen with a fall in production is a fall in employment, and hence a rise in unemployment. So we are entering a recession currently. What can we expect to happen to unemployment? Okay? So that's what we can expect over the next couple of months. And that brings us to the end of a discussion about employment. How do you feel about that? Okay, any questions at this point? Do you want to maybe do some test questions on unemployment? Does that make you... Let's take a look.